Welcome back, everybody, to Zlatan's Fight Picks. Thank you for joining me for the recap of Topuria Emmett. Hopefully things are back on track. Put out a couple videos a week. And today is the day we're going to recap the event. We're going to just go in order from most likely to least likely and talk about the things that work and things that didn't work. Of course, we're going to go over Santos. We picked Santos to beat Onama. Well, Santos was kicking Onama's ass for the first round. He won the first round. He was winning the first half of the second round until he got caught with some nasty punches and got put down. And yeah, it was a little disappointing. I mean, I think Santos took a little too many risks. With this, he had definitely looked like he was dominating Onama, and Onama, he just seems like the kind of guy that some fights he looks great and some fights he looks not so great, and it was hard to tell what he was going to look like in the third round. But he had some okay striking. Santos was still beating him. I think Santos is playing around a little bit too much on the ground. I don't really like the foot lock, foot submission kind of events. I find that most of the fighters go for the foot submission, and either they get it or they get pounded. And I think Santos took a lot of unnecessary damage doing that. I think he took a lot of unnecessary damage just in general. I think he was a little reckless. But I mean, when he was on in the first round, I mean, he was destroying Onama. All he had to do was keep doing what he was doing, and he would have won the fight. But second round, he looked like he took a little too much punishment. Looked a little worn out, maybe looked a little desperate. To me, he was a little sloppy with his defense, and he was going face first, and he got caught with a perfect shot, right? And that put him on the ground. I think he was just getting worn out from the ground and pound that was inflicted on him from Onama when he was trying a submission, or when Onama reversed it when he was on his back, and then Onama having those thin hips, managed to reverse from the figure four position. He was being held in a figure four position, and then he reversed it. He got on top, offered some ground and pound, etc. I think that wore out Santos a little bit. Just Santos didn't seem 100% as far as his cardio was. Either he was worn out for the punches, or he just wasn't 100%. But nevertheless, the first round and a half of that fight was dominated by Santos, which is no knock on Onama. It's just that Santos was definitely the better striker and just better fighter in that fight until he got knocked out, which was disappointing, because I really thought once I saw the first round that Santos was totally the right pick, because he was kicking Onama's ass. So nevertheless, Santos gets knocked out, and it's amazing how I keep laughing. I go, anybody who I pick as my most confident pick, I think something drastic happens and they lose. So just continuing that streak, the most confident picks, the people who seem to be dominating or should dominate the fight, always seem to get upset. And Santos falls right into line. He was my number one most confident pick. And after the first round, I mean, it was obvious that he should be. But then he lost. So nevertheless, moving on. Next most confident pick was Brown versus Turman. You know what? Honestly, Turman looked really impressive. He looked really good. He looked really good at welterweight. His striking seemed to really improve. Brown did seem to win the striking exchanges. I think was it a split decision? Nevertheless, Brown did win the striking exchanges. Turman couldn't get Brown on the ground. I don't even think he was trying to get him on the ground. I think he was just really focusing on his striking. His skills did improve. Brown did win the fight. He wasn't really dominant in this fight. He didn't look great in this fight, but he did eke out the victory. I mean, it's hard to tell what Turman's going to do. Turman is moving down from middleweight, so he's obviously going to be a bigger guy, stronger guy, used to fighting against middleweights. Unfortunately, he fought the biggest welterweight there is, or the tallest one anyways, at 6'3". So it really kind of was almost the same situation that he was dealing with at middleweight. But he actually looked really improved. I normally don't like his fighting style. I didn't think he was that good, but he actually looked pretty good. And against a guy like Brown, to look good or to make Brown look bad is actually a feat. So I think Turman is probably in the right category. He's got to make a few more adjustments, but I think he's not going to do too bad. I'm definitely going to be careful betting against him against a lower tier opponent, because I think Brown is a pretty decent opponent for anybody. Nevertheless, that was correct. Moving on. Magny. Well, this fight, having both guys at 6'3", Magny Rowe, both fighters at 6'3", you would think you'd have a lot of striking at range, but most of the fight just kind of took part in the clinch position against the fence. And I think Magny kind of lives there, but I thought Rowe should have just stepped back a little further. He was the better striker. He was more effective. But I don't know, it's just, Rowe, it almost seems like he was discouraged and he just kind of fell into that Magny groove of grinding in the fence. I don't know if he was just lazy or if he was discouraged. He couldn't get the shots he wanted. He looked a little disheartened. I don't know, maybe he thought the fight was going to go a little differently. But Magny, in Magny fashion, typically fights exactly the way he fought this fight. He's going to let you, strike him for a little bit and maybe hold him up against the cage. And by the third round, he's holding you up against the cage, hitting you against the cage. It wasn't a stellar performance. Magny did win the fight. I don't think Rowe won that fight. It was a split decision. It was a close fight. I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary for Magny. I think stylistically, that just was not an exciting matchup. You would think it would be, but it just, no. I think Magny does this to everyone else. So he's not a very exciting fighter, but he does win and he does strike a lot, and especially in the clinch position. He doubled the strikes of Rowe. Obviously not the significant strikes, but just the strikes up against the cage. Magny doesn't stop working, and judges like that. Moving on. Zumagulov versus what is his name? Ooh, where is he? Joshua Van. Well, this fight was disappointing. I mean, Joshua Van looked fantastic. And I don't know if it was Joshua Van looking that fantastic or Zumagulov looking that terrible. Zumagulov took Joshua Van down, couldn't keep him down. I mean, there's obviously great defense by Johnny Van. Is it Johnny Van? Joshua Van. But yeah, I mean, Zumagulov looked lackluster. He was much slower. He wasn't accurate. I mean, I've just seen Zumagulov look so much better against guys who are pretty good in this division. Now, either Zumagulov was just not himself because of all the weight cuts and the fight cancellations and etc. And that could play a big part of it. I mean, how many times you got to do weight cuts only to have the fight canceled? How many weight cuts can you really do? Or did Zumagulov take Van seriously? But Van looked great. Zumagulov looked lackluster. I mean, he survived. He's tough, and we know that. But I was disappointed in how many takedowns. I mean, Zumagulov, I think, only did one takedown where he took him down and Van got back up, maybe two. I mean, he should have just kept going after takedown after takedown after takedown. And this is where I'm thinking maybe the weight cuts affected him. I mean, why didn't he keep pursuing the takedowns? Obviously, he was better on the ground. Even if Johnny Van has good defense to get back up, just keep taking them back down. Grind him on the fence and take him back down. But he didn't seem like either. I mean, it didn't seem like he was doing it. He wasn't even making real serious attempts at it. So if he was making serious attempts and then he was failing, that's one thing. But it didn't even look like he was attempting those takedowns. He kept it on the feet. That's where Joshua Van was really good. I mean, Joshua Van looked really good in this fight. I just don't know if it was mostly Joshua Van looking good or Zumagulov just not performing. And it was a hard one to tell. I mean, he looked great, but I'm hesitant to say like, oh yeah, that's exactly what he's going to look like against somebody else. Nevertheless, it was a split decision. We picked Zumagulov. We were on the wrong end of that split decision. I think with a little bit more work, maybe a little more attempts to take Van down, Zumagulov could have pulled this off, but he didn't. Nevertheless, moving on, a big disappointment. And also that I'm not a big fan of that haircut. I mean, the haircut looks really cool, but those bob long kind of haircuts, I mean, it makes it look even worse when you get punched. I mean, the whole hair moves back, and even if you move your head back and the person doesn't punch you and he comes close to you, it looks like, you know, it was some kind of really hard punch, because the entire hair moves back and it looks like the guy just, you know, give you a huge strike. It just, the impact looks so much worse with the hair. I don't think that helps in the judge's eyes. I mean, you know, it looked terrible. I mean, and I guess Paddy Pimblett, same thing. Whenever he's got, I mean, even though that haircut is what he's known for, and I think everyone loves it, but, you know, when he gets hit, it looks like a huge impact, because all that head of hair flies back. Even if he just moves his head back to so the guy misses a punch, it looks terrible. So I'm not a big fan of that haircut, because it just doesn't look good in front of the judges. Because if the judges don't see the punch land, but they see your hair fly back, I mean, they assume that maybe something landed, and maybe harder than it should have, or harder than it was. Who knows? But nevertheless, moving on. Tafa, well, it was a void. He got poked in the eye. I gotta admit though, I mean, Tafa, I think was gonna end up knocking him out. But having said that, what was his name? Austin Lane looked pretty good in the first few seconds, you know. I mean, who knows what would have happened when he would have got hit. But at the beginning, you know, he had those long kicks. He's keeping Tafa at range for however long the fight lasted. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight again. Nevertheless, it was a void, so that doesn't count. Moving on. Topuria. We picked Topuria. You know, we also had one bet at, even though the odds actually dropped as the time went on. I had a bet on Topuria. If I had one small bet with Emmett in the same with the same parlay, everything except for that fight, just because the huge odds, and it was a small bet, just because, you know what, you never know, with that one shot knockout power, something could happen, kind of like what happened to Santos, I guess. And the odds were just too good to just not do it. But nevertheless, we had picked Topuria. It was obviously, to me, that Topuria was going to dominate this fight, you know, apart from a lucky punch. And he did dominate this fight. He looked great. His striking looked on point. His boxing looked great. Everything. I mean, Topuria is definitely top 5 guy. He's going to be fighting all the top 5 guys. And it's going to be interesting to watch, because, you know, when Volkanovski fights him, even though I'm a big fan of Volkanovski because he's a Macedonian brother, but nevertheless, Volkanovski is like Topuria. I mean, same size, good wrestler, good striker. You know, it's gonna be like very much a mirror image of what people what they look like physically, and what they're able to do. So that's going to be a really interesting fight, because they're going to be very much similar in their physical abilities, other than the fact that Topuria is a lot younger. Nevertheless, Topuria won. Moving on. That fight was canceled. Emmers. Man. I mean, I like Jack Jenkins. There was a split decision. Went against Emmers. This was a clear Emmers victory. Emmers won this fight. You know, it just... You can't say it. See, I don't even know how they could... I didn't even think it was a split decision type of fight. Emmers clearly won this fight. He dominated the fight. Didn't dominate the fight, but he beat Jenkins in all the appropriate areas. You know, on the feet, on the ground, everywhere. I mean, Emmers... You know, I got to admit, though, Emmers kind of... I don't think he pushed it as much as he could have pushed it. And I think it's kind of Emmers' fashion, where he doesn't really go after it. I think he just kind of goes with the flow, and he kind of fights according to who he's fighting. And I don't think it helps him out, because he should have gone after Jenkins a little more. He was definitely the better striker. You know, I mean, apart from the really severe leg kicks, Emmers had better striking. You know, better on the ground. Emmers just was winning the positions. But but it's not that Jenkins got blown out. They're both definitely close in ability. I think that fight was just a bad decision. I think Emmett did win that fight. But nevertheless, moving on. Rebus. Oh man, I mean, everybody's like, well, look at, how good Barber looked. I mean, Barber has a fight style that looks good to the judges because she doesn't stop striking. In this case, I don't know what Rebus was thinking. She was winning the fight, until she went to the ground with Barber, ended up in a bad position, because of the takedown, and I think Barber ended up escaping that headlock position. She ended up on the ground, and instead of fighting to get back up, she thought, okay, let's just go for a leg lock of some type. And this is where it gets like, what are you doing with a leg lock? You get a big enough girl, strong enough girl, she's just going to have you on the ground, and you're busy with your hands, and she's just going to pound your face in. And that's exactly what happened. She pounded her face. Rebus was winning the first round. She got her face pounded in by the end of the round. Second round, same thing. Rebus is doing great. All of a sudden, she went back for a takedown, couldn't get the takedown, went for a leg lock, got her face pounded in. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Rebus literally lost the fight. She lost the fight herself. She did not lose the fight because Barber won the fight. She lost the fight because she lost the fight because of bad decisions. And she made herself look terrible. She didn't have to be in that position. And she could have just stayed on the feet and still won that fight. I think she's a tough girl, but she took a lot of unnecessary punishment. There was not needed. Like somebody's got to give her a better game plan. I mean, she's got to check her fight IQ on this one. I don't think she was bad. I just think she made a lot of bad decisions. And of course, Barber made a lot of good decisions, and she had a lot of good opportunities. So, nevertheless, Rebus kind of dropped the ball on this one. Barber looked good. I don't think she looked fantastic. I think she looked better. I don't think she's going to be a champ, but nevertheless, Rebus definitely dropped the ball on this one. I mean, they run this back, and Rebus makes the right decisions, and it could be a totally different fight. And it would be a different fight. Nevertheless, Rebus lost. Very, very disappointed. Next fight. Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva. I've been always, hit and miss on Brendan Allen, but I gotta admit he looks great. And his fight IQ has definitely improved. He's not falling into I'm a grappler or I'm a striker, and he's made those mistakes before. He's gonna do the path of least resistance and win fights. The last fight he fought a really good grappler and he submitted him. This time he fought a very dangerous striker, and he knocked him down and submitted him. But it was basically kind of knocked him down with strikes. He outstruck him. So he looked really good and definitely improving. Always getting better. He's very young. He's only 27 years old. Surprisingly, he has made a lot of progress from, the last time he lost or last time he got knocked out. So nothing bad to say about this guy. I picked him. I'm definitely looking forward for him to start fighting guys in the upper tier, see how well he does. But, he's got a good frame. He's strong. He's good on the ground, good on the feet, seems to be making the right decisions. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be champ, but he's definitely going to move into the top 10. That's for sure. Bruno Silva, very entertaining guy. He's not going anywhere. This is where he's roughly at. He's about, top 20 kind of guy, and he's going to be fighting guys. He's always going to be dangerous. He's always going to be fun to watch. So, nevertheless, moving on. Radzhabov. Oh, Radzhabov versus Rebeski. Where is it on this one anyways? Radzhabov versus Rebeski. Yeah. Rebeski surprised me, actually. I didn't think he would have that. He had a great gas tank, very tough guy, fantastic kicks. Radzhabov, something didn't seem right with Radzhabov. I mean, he couldn't take those leg kicks, affected him immediately. It was immediately debilitating for him. I don't know, just Radzhabov came in, he missed weight. Who knows what his training camp, what happened. He seemed like he was getting tagged. He seemed like he wasn't really into the fight. I don't know if he was injured right off the bat with the leg kicks. I don't know if he was getting tired. I don't know. I mean, he still had a lot of power. It just didn't look like the same Radzhabov that I saw last time. And the last time he took the fight on short notice, he looked much better. Rebeski did look good. Great leg kicks. Man, I did not expect the leg kicks to be that devastating. I mean, we saw him fight against Fiore, and the leg kicks were good, but nothing what happened to Radzhabov. I mean, Radzhabov was crippled. He couldn't even walk on both legs. So either it was a combination of Rebeski showing what he can truly do, or Radzhabov showing that, he's susceptible to leg kicks, or who knows. I mean, Radzhabov did not look like Radzhabov. Rebeski did look good, some good strikes. Radzhabov was just basically, I think he wanted to get out of there at some point. He got tagged, and the ref knew that it should just be stopped. It didn't look like it was going to continue. Ref was looking for an excuse not for him to stop it, actually. So anyways, a little disappointing. Rebeski looks good. They're going to be looking forward to seeing his next fight. Radzhabov, he's going to be a kind of guy that you're going to be scared to bet on. So, which Radzhabov are you going to see, right? So it's going to be good in a way for odds, because I think he had a lot more to offer. I think there was more to this than we know. And I think next fight, he's not going to be, I think he's going to be an underdog. And depending on who he fights, he could be a good person to bet on, because he is pretty good. He just looked terrible in this fight. Then moving on, next fight, Robertson, 50 plus. I mean, these are the ones that are low end. She was, the underdog, and I've got a problem with Ricci's height. But definitely Ricci was definitely the faster fighter. Robertson, she's young. She's 27 years old. You'd think that her striking would be improving, but I don't see it really improving. Some of her big looping bombs might be getting a little better, but overall her striking is not improving. And I think once you get to the upper echelon of any division, you need to be able to strike, not just throw some punches to get close enough to try to take somebody to the ground. Because in this case, she took Ricci to the ground, and Ricci had a good enough jiu-jitsu to get back up. And Ricci had good enough wrestling to take her down, and she was smart enough not to stay down there, because that was Robertson's only path to victory. So she would just take her down, get the points, and then stay back far enough not to get wrapped up in any submission, and then eventually just throw a punch or two and get back up and get the points. Ricci fought a very smart fight. She was much quicker than Robertson. Robertson needs to improve her striking. There was no way you're going to be... even the speed in the striking, she's got to improve that. She definitely is in the right category to make some noise. She has a good size for this category. She was undersized for the other category, but now she finds herself being slow for this category because she is bigger. She was much slower. I think she's got to improve her speed, improve her striking. She just can't just go forward and not get takedowns or not get strikes. She just can't do that. Obviously she's just not going to... Ricci just exposed that, right? So there is a path to victory. But Ricci, on the other hand, has really good jiu-jitsu. So she was on the ground. She was never in danger. She managed to have she had a good enough defense to counter Robertson's offense. Little disappointed. Nevertheless, moving on. Dumas. I got Dumar still. It's Dumas. One, you know what? He didn't have a really good showing last time. It looked like he's a young guy. He's going to really improve. I saw him on the other circuits. And he came through on this one. And I was never 100% impressed with Brundage. And Brundage, I don't know. playing off his back. I don't know if he was just not into this fight. It looked like the coaches were trying to light a fire under his ass to get him motivated to attack this guy and to take him down. And he just didn't like he was into it. But Dumas, he fought a good fight. He's smart. He's long and lanky. He took the punishment, dished some out, took Brundage to the ground, reversed the position. He was doing enough to win this fight. I don't think Brundage is going to be in danger of losing his job. He took the fight on short notice. Dumas looked like he improved huge. So, better performance on his part. It's a good pick on our part. I didn't think Brundage was going to be able to dominate this guy. I mean, apart from a lucky shot and knocking him out. And Dumas can take a punch, and he's also really long and he's hard to reach. So, nevertheless, that was a really good pick. Mariscal, Chepe. Oh, man. And I knew this fight was going to be really good. Everybody in it was the type of fighter that's going to make this good. Trevor Peek, Chepe, and Mariscal. If you ever seen Chepe's fights before he got to the UFC, you would have known that this is going to be a banger, and he's durable, and he's good on the ground, he's good on the feet, and he's game, and he won't quit, and he's got a big gas tank. And you know what? And Trevor Peek, everyone knows, I don't know if he's good on the ground, but he's got a pretty good ground game to get back up game. And it's usually not necessarily technical, but he's very powerful, very explosive, and he always seems to get back up. And everybody knows this guy's going to go forward, throw bombs, take your shots, take your best shots, and don't stop coming. And that's exactly what he did. Unfortunately, Mariscal is the better technical fighter, and he's well-rounded. And he ended up winning this fight. It was clear that he's a little bit better technically striking, definitely better on the ground, and he won the fight. But it was entertaining as heck. I would definitely love to watch these guys fight anybody else. I mean, they're going to be fan favorites, I think, and Peak is going to be there. Everybody loves watching this guy fight. I like watching this guy fight. It's hilarious. Just seeing how happy he is in there, even before the fight. The guy's just crazy, and he's fun to watch. And Chepe, you know what? It's about time he got into the UFC. He definitely belongs here. He's going to be an exciting guy to watch. I think he's going to be moving back to 145, after his debut at 155. So I think, yeah, it was a really good fight. And again, underdog. So we definitely nailed the underdog situation, right? I mean, we picked these two underdogs. They didn't come through. And who else? That's not a we. Yeah. What else? No. It's all favorites. All favorites. But in reality, the favorites actually didn't win. So I think we could have. There's one underdog that upset our pick. Another underdog that upset our pick. Another underdog that upset our pick. Yes. I mean, it was three underdogs. I mean, I love nailing the underdogs. That's the key to, if you're gonna have a parlay, you gotta nail the underdogs. That's just a fact, right? Unfortunately, two underdogs didn't come through. Two underdogs did. So, and nevertheless, let's see what happens next time. What are we at? So we had one. How many? Well, we got this one was wrong. This one was wrong. The three wrong. This one. I'm not accepting that. That Emmers had won that fight. That one was wrong. So we had four wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 wrong? What? 5 wrong? Oh man, that's bad. 5 wrong and a super bad decision here. But nevertheless, how many right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wrong. Yeah, how many right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Okay. It was more right than wrong, because that would be really crappy. I don't want to be hitting below 50% ever. That would be embarrassing. I wouldn't have made the video. Skip to the next fights. Just joking. But nevertheless, it wasn't the outcome we wanted. And man, we just got to nail these underdogs. But sometimes, bad decisions, bad fight IQ, In that case, just, I don't know, a bad fight IQ coupled with a couple great shots. Split decision again. Bad fight IQ, should have taken him down. This was just, she just lost. He just lost. It was like, nevertheless, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, hit my like button, or your like button, I guess in that case. Hit the like button. Helps with the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps with my channel as well. It'll give you notifications the next time I put out a video. And yeah, other than that, thank you very much for joining me. And hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll get the next video out for the July 1st card. Thanks, guys. See you soon.